What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another awesome video from ByerlyStudios. Now, I am extremely excited about this video. Now, all of the videos in this Mad Mike Studios 68 series have been absolutely incredible. I've really enjoyed breaking them apart into their own individual videos, kind of just allowing me to expand the overall content on my channel, but also just show the processes, you know, all of the sculpting up the tumbler, the painting, they're all done in different sessions, and by separating them out into different parts, it also allows me to extend that content and include as much of that detail work as possible, so if somebody wants to see any of that data or that content, they can see that. Although a lot of it is 6x speed, it is all there for you to take advantage of and really to enjoy. So I really enjoy putting out the longer format videos, even if it is multiple parts in a series. As we run through some of these highlight clips of just the painting portions that we've already previously done, this is video number 10 in the overall Mad Mike Robot Man series. So it is extremely exciting to be able to finally break down and paint his face, the skin tones, his beard, his teeth, his eyes. The eyes also will be produced in its own standalone video in a real-time painting. So I will be painting those in Winsor & Newton acrylics, and I will be doing those in real time. That's probably the first real-time painting video that I'll be producing, which is kind of exciting. So as you can see here, we've got the blue jeans painted up in nice dingy dirt colors, just because he does do work in a workshop. We've also got his fireman jacket featuring the yellow and the silver reflective banding, and that all has a nice dry brush onto it. And then we're going to really break into creating the overall details on the top part of the tumbler in this video. So I really hope you enjoy this one. This one's a doozy. This one's the fun one. I'm so excited, and this is really where the tumbler is going to take a different turn, right? Its overall dimension is going to pop out. It's going to have a lot of life to it. The skin tones are going to bring it to life, and that's what I'm looking for. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go back and check out any of those other sculpting videos or painting videos, definitely go back and see those. It kind of leads you up to this part of the build. So let's jump into it, guys. So sit back and enjoy. As you can see here, I've got the actual head ready to be painted, and I also have the topper as well. We are going to paint both of these in the same video, just because they have the same overall color code as far as the skin tones, and then also the hair tones and things like that. I did have to wait for a different session for the overall finished hair color, just because I wanted to get an idea of what his wife wanted the hair tones to be. Originally, later on in the process, you'll see that I kind of make it just a dark brunette brown, and although he is a little bit silver haired in a lot of his videos, she said that he is a younger fellow, so I wanted to incorporate just kind of a salt and pepper type of look, which also just makes it have more dimension. So I'm glad I'm able to later on get the feedback from her, see what she kind of likes in a way, and then kind of just bring in some different colors and tones. And I think that it all overall gives it a much better look, having the brown background on the hair and then having the silver and gray on top. You'll see that later on in the process. That's really where the overall look of it really starts to transform. So as of right now, you know that I love to kind of base coat my shadows in Mars Black, and then I like to let it dry and sit back and think about how I want my tones and my shadows to be. I wanted just to really be free with the skin color, so I started off with just mixing a little bit of titanium white, yellow ochre. I introduced some cadmium red hue in here, and a few other just light cadmium yellow hue, things like that. So as I start to kind of fine tune his overall skin tone, I didn't want it to be super duper white. You know, I know that he's a Caucasian male, but I didn't want him to just be washed out compared to the rest of the build. I wanted him to have just a warm skin tone. And then I just wanted to give a little bit of detail here and there, give some shadows around his cheeks, around his eyes, around his eyebrows, around his ears, just to give the simulation of just the shapes that I had already sculpted into his facial features. So you'll kind of see the skin tone will gently change as I depthen that. You'll also see that the Mars Black base that I've already put on it is going to start to slowly get covered up. You'll still see that coming through it a little bit here and there, but this also, it makes me apply enough paint to it to give it a lot of richness and depth over the existing sculpting color, which is white bleach sculpt color. But it also allows me to see where my predicted original shadows were. That way I can kind of have an idea where I want to apply maybe a little bit more burnt umber, and then I can apply a little bit more titanium white and yellow ochre and cadmium yellow hue to the highlights where the light would be cascading down onto his like upper eyebrows and forehead, his higher arches of his cheeks, maybe the top brim of his nose, the edges of the tops of his ears. So you can kind of see that this overall skin tone is going to evolve over the next few minutes. So sit back and enjoy. You'll see me start to kind of define it, bring the lightness of his skin tone up a little bit as I build up those skin layers and cover up the Mars Black. Sit back and enjoy. So you can really see here just already, just with a few layers and coats on the face itself, it's really starting to build up a lot of pink tone. And as I start to apply a little bit more of a top coat of skin to this, or different tones of skin, I'm going to try to bring that more into a pale white. So I don't want it to have a real pink tone, but at the same time I don't want it to look all bleached out and just super white. I want it to have just a nice tone overall, and I'm going to continuously build up those layers, bring some more highlights to those cheeks, the nose, and the eyebrows as I continue working the skin into the overall shades that I like. So as you can see here, I'm really starting to build up those layers. I really like that. So even right here, I'm bringing more titanium white, a little bit of yellow ochre with that cadmium yellow hue in. But I just felt like I needed to go ahead and start moving his face right along. So not only am I working around the nostrils, but I'm also working around his lower lip. I do want to apply just a light layer of just a pink tone to that, just so I can kind of define that away from the existing skin. I bring that up into more of a bright cadmium red hue and a yellow ochre, and then I'll slowly just take the existing skin tone over that and just apply a nice glaze or film over that, just to give it a nice pink glow. And that's all it really takes. I didn't really apply that a lot to the upper lip, just because that's shadowed in by his mustache, and then I'll kind of blend that in with the mustache a little bit more. So I'm hoping that when I get done with the mustache, it will have maybe a few hairs that kind of just poke over the edge of his upper lip. But I want the focal point of his mouth to be the whiteness of his teeth. I'm not going to dinge out his teeth. They're going to be a bright, brilliant white. And then he's going to have a nice, soft, pink lower lip, just to give it some framing and a nice framed in look before your eyes kind of flow over to his mustache and his goatee, which are really going to have a nice, really deep color, because I'm going to apply a lot of layers to those. So here you can see I'm really bringing in those lighter tones around the cheeks, and I continuously build up those light tones in the cheeks, and then it sets those darker tones around the lower portions of his eyelid and eye gland back a little bit further. And by applying the highlights to those cheeks and the upper eyebrows, it brings them more and more forward in the overall picture. Not only in the sculpture, but in the painting itself. So as you can see, I'm really bringing in a little bit more of that burnt umber into those skin tones, and I'm just mixing a little bit of this at a time. So I'll kind of just, bring it out and around his ears as I just work the other layers, and I'm just using whatever I have on my palette, adding a little bit of burnt umber in, and then just taking it out and around the ear, just because there's gonna be so much shadow there underneath the ear. And when the helmet and everything is on, I really want that to have a darker tone, not just naturally because it's a sculpted item, but just in the paint itself. So there you can see I really applied a very bright white tone to his nose, and I'm continuously bringing up those tones around the eyelids there. Even more on the cheeks there. You can really see that color. That's a very, very bright color. I'm adding more and more titanium white to that overall mixture. Now you can also see here, I'm going to bring in more of a pink tone. I'm adding a little bit more cadmium red into this skin tone here around the eyelids. And I'm just trying to get that paint on the interior of the eyelid, so that when I do come in with the titanium white on the eyeball itself, that it will just kind of all come together. If you don't continue that skin tone into the eye, it just is going to look off if that white is touching that. So later on I do have to touch that up a little bit, just because the titanium white gets on that, so I'll kind of wipe that off with the edge of my finger a little bit. But when I apply the white to those now black eye sockets, it really kind of brings those skin tones alive a little bit. But you can really see how they're pink around the eye, and then they're more of a bright tone around the eyebrow and the cheeks there. It's really starting to come together at this point. I'm really happy with how it's looking, and I'm still bringing in a little bit of burnt umber into those little recesses. This is where I'm really just kind of nitpicking and just really just adding the smallest minute amount of shadow to it around the nostrils, around the lower line of the nose, around the chin, where he has that little dimple there, where his goatee is gonna make a break between his goatee and his soul patch. Soul patch, I guess. I was looking for the word soul patch. So I'm just using some of that existing skin tone with the burnt umber to kind of build up those layers around the mustache. Same thing for inside the ears. I didn't like or enjoy painting the ears. I just think that it was more fun to paint the face, but it's got to be done, guys. It's got to be done. So I'm just introducing more of that burnt umber building up those tones around the ear, and then I still do come back with some more highlights around the top ridge of the ears in a little bit. So this is just straight up burnt umber here, and I'm just going to go ahead and apply a nice thin glaze, sorry, not glaze, wash, a thinned out wash of water and burnt umber, and give the hair some overall base. I'll do this a few times just to get that clay completely covered, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm blending that brown color into the skin tones, and that way I kind of like how those are blending with the existing skin tones before I start to build up any of those grays or more of a titanium white gray. Here I am, I'm going to go ahead and start to frame in his teeth there. I just painstakingly, very detailed, took a small brush there and just laid some titanium white on them. And then I didn't really care what the tone was behind the teeth. Just the fact that they were titanium white just applied all of the detail that I needed to his mouth. The pink tone of the lip really does make those teeth stand out even so more. And I think that the titanium white teeth, as I bring those forward, it really makes the lip look a little bit more realistic. Whereas before, with the teeth being the same color, it just felt kind of washed out. So the titanium white really does kind of bring that to life in a way that I really do enjoy. So although this may have been a separate painting session, while I walked through my house, I always felt like he's just smiling at me. It's like, hey Mike. He's just smiling at me from the craft desk. So now I'm going to start the process of bringing up the titanium white in the eye sockets here. Now I do have to go over the Mars Black quite a few times with this, and I'm completely okay with that. So overall, throughout the process, up to the point of painting his eyes, you'll see the titanium white build up over time. So once I kind of gave that a little bit of a white tone there, I'll set this off to the side and let it dry for just a little bit. And then I wanted to go ahead and get the topper painted a little bit before I start in on the hair. So I did use some of the existing burnt umber on my palette there, just watered it down and just used some of that on the back of the head there, just so I didn't waste that paint during that session. Now I'm going to immediately go into the headband, which I've just rested just barely over the head itself, and I'm going to apply a Mars Black base to the headband. Now this is supposed to be an overall kind of fabric headband. This is going to be really shadowed in by the helmet that I'm building. Once it's all put together, you really won't see a lot of these details unless the helmet's all the way up. But I just want to give it some kind of definition. It's going to be so dark of a black color that it's really going to be an afterthought in a way. So what I'll do here is I will apply just a Mars Black base to it. I'll let that dry for a few minutes, and then I'm going to come in with not only a little bit of Pain Gray, which is more of a bluish tinge to it, but I'm also going to bring in some washes of browns after the fact, just to apply some dirt and grime into those little recesses that I have carved into the headband, just to give it some character, just to give it some grunge and deterioration. Because, you know, this helmet would have been used a lot, and that headband would have been sweaty, kind of deteriorated, kind of just, you know, just it would have been old, and I want to bring some of that grunge into that in some way, one way or another. Okay, so then I'm also going to continue that black onto that little adjustable nut there. I think that this is on the inside of his helmet. I'm pretty sure I posted a picture of this in the sculpting part of this, and I hope to intend to make another one of these little adjustable nuts for the exterior of the helmet nut and bolt before I finalize everything, because I'm hoping that the helmet portion is not removable when I get done. So I'm going to apply some Mars Black to that while I'm doing this process, and I'll probably go over that a few times just to get the coat that I need. And those will actually have a gunmetal gray base and then a highlight of pure silver. That will be a Winsor & Newton pure silver, not a folk art. Alright, here's that gunmetal gray there, and I'm just going to kind of apply that very liberally onto the overall nut. I don't care if it gets on the actual washer that I have seated there. If some of that paint rubs off due to wear and tear of the helmet moving up and down over the bolt, I'm okay with that. That's just going to happen. I probably will not use resin on the washer, and there will be also another washer sitting there also. So although I'm painting that, it's probably for naught, but oh well. So there's that pure silver. I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of gently apply just a highlight to the exterior edges of that gunmetal gray. Now, just remember that that is a metallic color, so the light is cascading down from my halo light above, and that is going to give me the light. I'm following the light with those silver highlights in just a natural way so that these just look really realistic. I'm using the existing glare of the light to apply my silver. And I think those look really cool overall. I could probably come in with some brown and dinge those out as well and make them look rusted. I just didn't feel like that was necessary. I don't think that there would be a ton of water accumulation there, enough to where it would be overly rusted. And I do think that the hinging portion of his welding helmet would probably get a little bit more use than it would allow to create rust, spots there. So although I dinged out the headband here with a wash of browns, I'm not going to apply that to those adjustable nuts. Alright, so with the brown wash drying on the band, I go ahead and immediately start in with some of my skin tone. This is a separate session. I'm going to be real with you guys. Now, I also mixed up a little bit more of a brighter skin tone than I had intended. So while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and take some of that burnt umber and I'm going to pull that up into the skin tone that I've mixed. And I'm just going to kind of darken that out just a little bit. As long as it has the general skin tone, I'm pretty cool with it. I'm not upset with it in any way that it's a different tone. As long as it matches in some way, it's going to look absolutely phenomenal. And then when I come in with the browns and the grays and the silvers for the head or the hair, as I'm doing now, it really kind of just blends that out, and it makes it less noticeable if it is a slightly different tone than the actual head of the sculpted item. So here's the same process as the back. I'm using burnt umber here, and I'm just applying a very watered down version. I'm letting it settle into all of those nooks and crannies that I had sculpted with it, not just a sculpting tool, but an X-Acto knife. So a lot of these are very sharp, very deep cuts into the clay, and I want to make sure that that water settles as far into it as possible. So I'm just using a medium-sized filbert brush, and I'm really pushing that into the recesses of the clay. I will eventually switch to a more of a rugged, let's just say crap brush that I will use to really push that water down into those as I build up those washed layers. So here I am. I've already got that dirty wash on there, is dried, and now I'm just going to go ahead and give it a light coating of Pain Gray. So here you can see I'm starting to build up more of those brown tones around the eyebrows, around the corners of the hair there, around the ears, as well as around his mustache, his soul patch, and his goatee. And you'll start to see me bring in more titanium white and a lot of Mars Black to a gray tone, and I'm going over it with not a dry brush, but just a top coat over the top of all of those hair follicles or hair clumps that I had sculpted into those portions of hair, and I'm just really going over it very lightly. I don't want to build up too much depth there. I really want that brown to pop through and give it a salt and pepper look. So it's really turning out great. I'm really cool with how this looks. I think it really brings forward the overall dimensions of the face, and it makes the hair just look more complete. So the very top coat is almost not just a titanium white, but a little bit of Mars black there. But you can see I'll start to build up lighter and lighter and lighter tones until I get the desired effect before we roll into the eyes. Alright, so at this point now, we're going to go ahead and get his eyes kind of framed in. I missed a little bit of the shadowing there for the eyes. I basically just made a rim of Mars black just to frame out the exterior of the pupil, and then I'm just going to kind of just build up my tones from there. And now this will be a separate real-time painting video. It will be the first real-time painting video that I've made. It will not be listed in the numbers of this series. It will be listed as maybe hazel eye acrylic painting or something like that, because it's more so just separated out from this overall build. But the colors that I'm using here in this portion of the time lapse of his head and topper, I am using Mars black, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, raw sienna for a lighter tone, titanium white, sap green, and a little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow hue. I said yellow hue, cadmium yellow hue. all those in varieties just to give it the overall mixture of colors. I'm doing a lot of wet on wet here, and although this overall process probably took me about 20 to 25 minutes in total, it was a lot of wet on wet technique here. So I'm really happy with how they turned out. They're very simple in every single way, so I'm not going to act like they're not. They're just easy, simple eyes. I'm not applying super intense detail to them, but they're enough to where when you sit back, it really does look like he's looking at you, and they really feel they're symmetrical and uniform, and I think they really turned out good. I'm happy with how they looked. I've really never made hazel eyes before or tried to make any intentional colors before, and I'm really happy with how these turned out. Alright, so with the eye color pretty much set in stone, added those last few white glare highlights to his eyes there, just to give it some definition. And then I just gave it a little more coating of yellow ochre there. I really like that yellow ochre, guys. It's a beautiful color. And like normal eyes, I went ahead and give it some detail work around the eyelids. I added a little bit of a cadmium red hue and a little bit of yellow ochre into the corners of the eyes, just to give those tear ducts a little bit of color. And then I went over the entire eye with a very thinned out a layer of water and cadmium yellow hue, just to tone the whites of the eyes. So now we're going to jump into finishing up the hair of the cup topper. Here's, like I said before, I shift to a crap brush, and I'm really pushing that water and those browns into the clay to get the overall coverage that I need before I can start to build up the more highlighted colors that really truly bring it to life. But you can't do that without the layers on your base. You got to build up those base layers to build up the fun layers, right? So one thing and then the other, trust the process, and it really turns out great. We're going to go ahead and use the same paint mixture of browns to apply another layer to the back of the head. As you can see there, that hair is just very simple. It's not much to it, but it did take a little bit of creation just to apply each piece individually and then sculpt them with the X-Acto knives, just so they look uniform up and around the ears, up through the topper to the top of the head. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Hitting it with the heat gun there, I'll do this a lot of times through the wash process just to get that water dried out even faster so I can get more layers on a little bit quicker. I did majority of this all in one session, so you can kind of see that the heat gun really does speed things up, even though I'm using so much water to water down those browns. Oh look, hello guys. Hello, hidey-ho! So as you can see, it's really starting to darken out quite a bit as I apply more layers of that burnt umber, and it's really starting to look great. I really like how deep that brown is getting, because I know that I wanted it to be a little bit of a brown tone anyways, so I was just waiting on that response, and she just responded just with that salt and pepper type of look, and I really like how these turned out. So last little bit of brown here. I know this is a lot of wash colors, but as you can see here, I've already got a little bit of the gray tone around the front of the face there, and it really looks great. I'm going to go ahead and apply just a light layer of Mars Black around the top of the tumbler there, and then I'll kind of lightly epoxy that in place when we get completely done, and that just gives it more of a finished look instead of just having either white or just stainless steel showing there. We're going to finish up the edges of the hair there, and then I'll also do this gray and titanium white Mars Black mixture across the top of the topper, and I'll really do that top like really thick across the swooping portion of his hair on the front of the topper, kind of where his forehead is. I really wanted to try to capture that when I sculpted that in reference to a lot of the pictures that he has when he when he styles his hair for some of his pictures or some of his TikToks. I wanted to try to capture that style that he has, and I think I did pretty good in that. So you'll see me kind of build up those tones and over the overall top of the hair into lighter tones as I go. And it really brings it to life. I love the sculpted texture I was able to achieve here. What do you think, guys? I am so happy with how this thing turned out. It is beyond my expectations, and it really brings the overall sculpted tumbler to life. Now, there are a few more portions of this that we're still rolling through, so I still have to make his welding tanks as well as a actual light up welding torch that he's going to be holding, and I'm hoping to be able to apply his welding oxyacetylene hoses around his body or around his legs and then to the back of the unit there. Still working on how to do that, but I will definitely include y'all in the process. So I'd like to appreciate you all for watching this awesome video. It really took a turn, and it really brought this project to life, applying those skin tones, the hair, and all the toppers, and just bringing it to life with color, guys. It's so amazing, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I know that Mad Mike 68 is really going to enjoy it. Make sure y'all go back and check out some of the awesome sculpting and painting videos up to this portion. And if you haven't had the opportunity yet, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the like. Let me know in the comments what y'all would like to see in the future. I look forward to putting out amazing products for you guys. You guys have the week that you deserve. I will see you on the next video.